WGAN Morning News with Ken and Matt, Southern Maine's source for news. News Radio, WGAN.
Break on through to the other side. Break on through to the other side. Break on through to the other side, yeah.
All right, back again. It is 8:38 on the WGAN Morning News with Ken and Matt. And we have been preparing all day for the Democratic debate tonight. Can't wait to maybe watch some of it. Perhaps. Joining us now on the phone to talk about what to expect at this Democratic debate, not only today, but also tomorrow. We've got a couple of these things because they had to split them in half because there are so many of them. We have Alex Wilkes. She's an attorney and a senior vice president at America Rising Corp. And I introduced her a little bit in the last segment just to let you know who she is. And she's here to kind of react to what we're going to be seeing tonight and perhaps pre-butt it a little bit. Alex, how are you this morning?
I'm great, thanks. Thanks so much for having me.
You bet. So let's start with, I guess, who's on the debate stage. We've got basically Elizabeth Warren and most of the second and third tier people. So the rest of the kind of number ones are, I think, tomorrow. So when you are looking at tonight's debate, do you expect any actual fireworks? I mean, these people going to be going after each other at all, or is this going to be a love fest? What do you think?
Oh, look, I mean, I think that they have to because someone has to stand out. If they all stand up there and they're complimenting each other, I think that that's going to be a problem. And, what's difficult for them is that this Democratic Party moved so far to the left early on. Nearly all of them are identical. It's difficult to find any kind of meaningful difference among these candidates because they were all trying to win over that progressive vote. And so for tonight, I would say, we have Elizabeth Warren on the stage. I think that this might be an opportunity for her to sort of break out and to shine away from the pack. She's not going to be paired with her progressive sort of equal in Bernie Sanders, so she really might be able to make a name for herself. But as you mentioned, we have a lot of one percenters on the stage tonight.
Yeah, a lot of them.
And I can't see any of these people really catching fire.
No, but they do. I mean, as I think you pointed out, the fact that they're one percenters actually it should free a lot of them up to say, to hell with it. Let's actually try here. Maybe I can get some attention, and maybe my 1% will turn into 3 or 4 and whatnot. So perhaps they go after each other in some fashion and try to distinguish themselves as it relates to them versus the other candidates. I wonder if that happens, or I wonder if they just try to distinguish themselves by being the one that attacks President Trump the most. I mean, I'm kind of on the fence about which one they do, but I would probably lean towards the latter.
I think that that's right. I think that has been an early theme of the campaign, and I think that that's also difficult for them because they can't win by just attacking the president. They have to show why they would make Americans' lives different and better. And I think that that's really hard when you have the economy going as well as it is. The president is really going to benefit from that. And certainly the reforms that he's put in place have contributed to that. And I think that he can really take ownership of the economy. And so for the Democrats, I think it's a really tough sell to say, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? Because the answer is yes. And I think that people are more likely to want to give the president a second try to do more. And so for these Democrats, simply attacking him, I don't think is going to be enough. Number one, because there's been so much progress made. But number two, because, they just don't really, Americans are not just simply looking for a negativity and they're looking for an alternative.
Well, you're right. I mean, I think I agree with most of what you're saying, but there is a little bit of a, voice in the back of my head that's saying, yeah, but that's not their audience right now. The audience for Democrats is the Democratic primary voters who are increasingly younger, more diverse, and more socialistic and progressive. So, that's the audience you got to get to first. So I wonder if they don't have a race to the bottom in terms of that kind of stuff, trying to appeal to that base.
Sure, and don't forget who's also watching tonight will be the Democratic donors. So I think
that's a good point.
There a lot of these folks are looking for some much-needed oxygen to their campaign because I think if they really fail to break out tonight or tomorrow night, especially for some of these characters like Cory Booker, who are just sort of languishing in the polls right now, it's going to be really tough to sell donors on the idea that you should keep contributing to their campaign if they can't even, break out of a PAC that includes, just some really off-the-wall sort of characters, not sort of traditional candidates, very much, an unwieldy kind of field. So I think that it would be a tough sell to donors to say I couldn't distinguish myself from all of these other people.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point about the dynamic that you're going to have to deal with. It's not just about the voters. It is also about the donors as well. We're talking to Alex Wilkes. She is Senior Vice President of America Rising and is joining us here now talking about the Democratic debate, which will be tonight and tomorrow because there's more than 20 people that are running. Do you think, is there a different dynamic tomorrow since you got, that top 5 list of Democrats, most of them are tomorrow. It's really just Elizabeth Warren tonight. Do you think because there's some more top dogs in the second debate that's going to change how they relate to each other? Or are you going to see more fireworks, less fireworks? What do you think?
I think that the second night is undoubtedly the night where, more eyeballs are going to be tuned to because you have Joe Biden on the stage, Pete Buttigieg, some of these, Bernie Sanders, some of the names that are at the top of the polls right now. But I wouldn't count out tonight, and I think that this is where Elizabeth Warren really does have an opportunity because, don't forget, in the same way, I'm thinking back to the 2015 debates in the Republican primary, back to Cleveland, that first debate in July, and, thinking about the excitement in the air. There was just this, sort of momentum, this, hunger for any kind of, political theater, particularly after 8 years of President Obama. And I think that certainly the Democratic base is energized. I think they've really sort of gone off the rails in terms of their hatred of President Trump. And so I think that, you're going to find an audience that's looking for that kind of theater. That being said, I think that, you're also going to get some Republicans tuning in to see just how, just how crazy these folks have gotten. And I think that that's a problem for independent voters who might be tuning in a little bit early ahead of the general election and saying, wow, where did this Democratic Party go? This is much different than where I left it. Really, even in 2016, a lot of these positions are different than what Hillary Clinton had even held.
Yeah, no, that's also a good point. I guess my final real question to you that I'd like to get you to deep dive on a little bit is an overall view of the race itself. Put away the debates, because at this point, as much as they do give an opportunity for people to maybe stand out or embarrass themselves, they're far less important than a lot of the other things in a race. Joe Biden, of course, has been the quote unquote front runner since he announced, and is sort of expected to be a strong contender all the way to the end. But going back in history, the person who's leading in June of the year prior to the election in a primary virtually never wins. So I guess my question to you is, do you think that Joe Biden actually has any legs? And if not, then who do you think actually emerges out of this pack to be the sort of progressive alternative who could actually take him down?
I think that for Joe Biden, this is definitely a dangerous place to be, and I think that's why his advisors are very much holding him back. You don't see him playing in as many of the different forums as the other Democratic candidates are because, they want to limit his exposure. And that's with good reason, because when Joe Biden is sort of let off his leash and he's out there unscripted, he always comes back with something, that sort of embarrasses his campaign. His campaign has to spend a lot of time and a lot of news cycles cleaning up. So I think that they're walking on pretty thin ice. I would definitely look for someone like Kamala Harris to maybe break out of the pack. Elizabeth Warren is certainly rising in the polls. And I think that importantly, the debates are going to winnow this field a little bit, that, it's going to combine some support for the 1% candidates. So you might see a bump for some of these top tier candidates, in a way that, puts them in more serious contention, with someone like a Joe Biden. So I think it's way too early to declare Joe Biden the presumptive nominee. And I think his candidate or his campaign could really suffer if there's this idea that he has this hubris, that he's sort of the anointed one, in the same way that Hillary Clinton, sort of faced that charge when Bernie Sanders really gave her a run for her money in 2016.
All right, Alex, appreciate you joining us here, telling us a little bit more about the debate. We will certainly be watching, and I'm sure there will be plenty of things to talk about the next couple days as it relates to those debates. And we obviously have a year and a half of this going forward, so it'll not be the last time I'm sure I talk to you. Thanks so much for joining us, and good luck watching the debate tonight.
Thanks for having me.
You bet. Appreciate it. All right, why don't we take a quick break here? Kirk